Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GothamChess Slow Run. This is episode number 11, and in case you missed the introduction of the previous 10 episodes, in this series I'm playing on an authorized account on chess.com, where I started at 400, and I'm playing rapid games going up the rating ladder, explaining my thought process every step of the way. We have just recently crossed 700, and thus far we've been dealing with pretty ridiculous openings, a lot of early queen attacks, a lot of 4-move checkmate attempts, and lots of blunders. And as long as we've been sticking to the principles, we've been getting some good positions. In this video, before we get into the games today, I'd like to share a little bit of news, an update on behalf of everybody that is in Charlotte, associated with the Charlotte Chess Center, as well as the Daniel Naroditsky family. They today put out a big press release for the Daniel Naroditsky Memorial Fund. They are raising from the community, and as far as I understand, this is going to serve two reasons in the long term. And those reasons are an annual Rapid and Blitz chess tournament in Charlotte, which is something that Daniel loved very much, and a scholarship for aspiring chess players. So both of these things will be held in the form of an endowment with the Charlotte Chess Center nonprofit. They started the Charlotte Chess Center Foundation. They've already raised $365,000, and I will be making a contribution later today. If you would like to contribute, if Daniel in any way, shape, or form had a positive impact on your chess, on your life, on your emotions, on anything, then you can use this QR code. I'll also put a link in the description, and I will also have it on the screen. On the screen, if you would like to scan it at any point. So as positive as news as we can have, and given the circumstances, and they have said very clearly, it's not a fund of retribution. It's not a fund of legal fees or anything like that. It's to focus on the positives, to focus on the legacy of Daniel, and we will continue to go up the rating ladder, and hopefully that fund can sustain in the long term with lots of opportunities for aspiring chess players. And for this tournament, for the Rapid and Blitz event that they will be planning. So, without further ado, let's jump into the games today. Our first opponent is around our level. Pawn goes out to e4. Let's play pawn to e5. Let's be symmetrical for now. We'll see if we get hit with another Scholars. This is an interesting move. Pawn to c3. So, as a beginner, it's very difficult to understand why this move was played. I will tell you, as a stronger player, it might be to build two pawns in the center. As we know, there is no really like reinventing the wheel. It's been invented. So we will just attack the pawn in the center of the board. I truly have absolutely no idea what is happening here. So this might just be a new and unique way to target my weak pawn. Now, two pawns in the center is already good. You can also just grab this pawn. Like, there is nothing wrong with this, and we do see that the opponent is, in fact, going for our weak pawn. Now, this can be protected. We cannot block, unfortunately, although even that move, I think it's not completely terrible. We can actually retreat our knight. Now, we can retreat our knight to g5 or to d6 to protect the pawn on f7. Now, coming here would make more sense because we would also target the bishop. But you can also make a forward move and just defend the pawn with your queen, and your position is completely fine. And yeah, the opponent is just kind of making one-move threats. Like, the threat of this move actually is not that unreasonable. It's to attack this pawn as well. So the knight should be retreated to one of these two squares. I'm going to go here because I also like that our queen is, the queen is being targeted. Although retreating here would have been just fine. Had we gone here, the opponent would have actually taken our pawn, and that would have been very bad. It's quite clear that, white has a very tricky strategy. And generally in chess, when they play a little weird in the opening like this, it does open up some tricky stuff that is very unconventional. But as long as you kind of deal with it and don't blunder anything egregious, you should be just fine. And we see there I am up one pawn. We see from the count. Okay, so the queen comes, it's looking at the knight, but the knight is protected. I see 2 pieces. I mean, right away, your brain should be like, of course your brain should be thinking I need to develop my pieces, but this is just the pure pawn fork. And that pawn is extremely well protected. And as I always say, the weird stuff can be punished extremely fast. Now, we are going to hit a point in this climb where these weird openings are going to basically vanish. And I think we are about 2 episodes away from that. Okay, this is just now a pure free bishop. Now, I think my opponent's going to go here because it's quite clear that they're big on the queen stuff. Yeah. So the bishop is under attack now. Now, I can come back with my queen and defend it, but let's not forget, like, I just want you all to understand, chess is built in a way where it is not possible to beat somebody like this. Like, the queen against the whole squad, it's not going to work. And if I just play a natural move, my bishop is defended. The queen is actually trapped. The queen cannot enter a full castle of guards. It's just a silly thing to think. And I'm now going to trap the queen. What's funny is this move actually helps me trap the queen. It looks very natural to play knight to d3 and give a check, and it actually is a very good move. But if you just bring the knight back to actually either of these 2 squares, the queen is completely stuck. Queen has absolutely no way out. So you cannot possibly play like this. One thing I didn't mention in the intro, by the way, I've made a couple of videos. I made a Slowrun video a little while ago, and I made another video. All proceeds from any time I talk about DANYA or anything like that will be going to this to the endowment. I feel very strongly about supporting the young generation, the next stars of U.S. chess. I've thought about it for a long time. I've always thought about setting up my own nonprofit, and rather than split anything off in different directions, I will just be helping out the folks in Charlotte. Look, now we're up a queen. I mean, we can do anything we want. I mean, we can put our bishop on g7, fianchetto, like always, and then castle. We can also use our material advantage to just immediately go hunting. Like, we have an extra queen against basically nothing. When I see also, oh man, I mean, my opponent is just missing my ideas. And this is crazy. This is still 700. Like, folks, if you ever are in doubt, it is totally possible to get out of the 700 territory. Like, I promise you. If my opponent takes this pawn, they will lose both the knight and the rook because I have check, king e2, and queen back to e4. I might even have mate, queen h1, king e2, knight f4, king e3, queen e1, king takes knight, queen e4. I mean, it's got to be something there. Oh, I think I did. I think I just had knight e5, queen h1. And my opponent just resigned. They didn't even want to participate. What I saw was this. I thought there was knight e5, queen here, and then in this position, I can actually just come back. Okay, look, that was easy. The thing is, I'm not even being that ruthless. I am playing in a way where I'm putting a knight in the middle, right? And then the opponent's just giving me the knight. Just giving me the pawn. Here, the best move for white is queen to d5, because it actually attacks both of my pieces. And I'm not moving my knight out to the edge of the board. When my opponent goes here, I'm noticing this, and I didn't even play the best move, which would have been a counterattack. I played queen e7, just protecting myself. When I saw this, like, yeah, now you got to move your knight. You got to see this. You got to draw those little arrows in your head. And then I forked my opponent, and then they gave me the bishop, and then I just, like, didn't hang my bishop. I went knight c6, and the queen was trapped. Like, I just reacted to what white was giving, the energy, and I won the game in 8 moves. Literally, in 8 moves, the white queen was trapped, and I was up a bishop. So, look, you cannot play chess like this. You just can't. Like, at least you can't go all in, meaning you can't lose the center pawn, and, like, all right, at least this. Like, at least white should stick to some principles, despite not playing, potentially in the best way. At least you're still playing in the middle. There's not much else to say about that game. Like, now we are going to try to play good principle chess. Like, we are... Okay, e4, d5. So we have a Scandinavian defense. I don't know if this is what my opponent is actually, going for. I already showed you one of the most annoying ways to play against the Scandinavian in a previous episode of the Slow Run. If you accept the Scandinavian, which is a completely reasonable thing to do, well, I don't know. Maybe my opponent's going to play a gambit. All right. The most common approach to the Scandinavian defense is to attack the queen, of course. And now the queen will go somewhere. Okay, it goes all the way back. Now you should still play in the center. I mean, it's obviously the best move to take as much of the center as possible. And then we will develop our knights and our bishops. Now, well, we are playing a real opening. This is like actually a real opening. My opponent develops the knight in a slightly strange square. Why is this a slightly strange square? In general, you should avoid having your knight attacked by the enemy pawn in the center of the board. So right now, the best move is pawn to d5. But let's say I just develop my knight. The best move now for black is to pin my knight to my queen. Of course, that is the whole idea of the Scandinavian. Now black is threatening to take the knight and then take this. So this is the interaction of all of our pieces, right? This is defending this. Now, of course, I can push. That move is quite reasonable because my pawn is hanging. I can also maybe consider a move like bishop to e3 or bishop e2 or even bishop b5, pinning the knight to the king. Like, if you play any of those moves, it's fine. I will attack the knight. Now, what's funny is my opponent is definitely going to go here. And if I take, I would lose my queen. But what's funny is that's a losing position for black. If I take this knight and they take my queen and I give this check, bishop to b5 check, the black king actually has no way to defend itself. It is a borderline completely lost position for black. I'm 700 though. I don't know that. I'm just going to block. But I will show you that very unique tactic after the game. I don't want to beat people with tricks that only a very high-rated player would know. We're going to trade. Of course, my opponent's going to take. I'm going to take with a queen. Here, white has a slightly better position. White has a slightly better position because white has more developed pieces. White has more space. I'm controlling some of the square movements. I'm a little closer to castling than my opponent, so I'm definitely feeling quite good. A lot of you here would immediately start going to battle. I recommend getting the bishop out. I actually don't really care where you put it. I think the most aggressive is fine. But bishop here to target that pawn is fine. And me personally, I'm going to go long castle. Both sides are good. Here, a lot of you, by the way, would autopilot taking this knight because that's just what the beginner mind says. No, you would help the opponent develop their pieces. No, we're not helping. We're just going to move the bishop right back. And now we're going to move the bishop right back, and maybe black is going to go here and castle. Okay, g4. You see, my opponent just likes making threats. That's what my opponent likes. So we should probably keep this pawn protected. Any of these moves are good, but we should probably keep the pawn protected. So I'm just going to centralize the queen. By the way, by going over here, I actually see a check, and that check would win me a pawn. Your brain just kind of has to always monitor stuff like that. And now the next level of thinking beyond 800... Oh, and they resign. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, brutal. Absolutely brutal. That was actually going pretty well. I mean, it was an interesting position. Maybe they mouse slipped. I don't know. Maybe they only meant to move 2 squares, or maybe they just hung their queen. Oh gosh. Okay, so here the position was, you know, a bit, like I said, look, I told you here, who has a better position? I said white. Yeah, it's plus 1.5. Like, that's an advantage for white. The computer likes bishop to f4 more than bishop to g5. It likes developing with a very clear target in mind, being the pawn. The knight is not really a target. Here, taking the knight is not very good because you just help the opponent get their bishop out and actually get a pretty fortified position. You might be sitting going, but doubled pawns! Yes, but a good player goes doubled pawns, but I give away my only bishop, and I help them develop. Probably the doubled pawns don't go above that, right? Exactly. So taking the knight is not the best move. Now here, black played this, which was okay, but now you gotta castle the king. Before you go to battle, you can't do this. The position here is 1.6, but just after this move, it's already +2. Why is this move so bad? Why is it such a bad move? For the temporary dopamine benefit of attacking a queen, you permanently weaken your position. So you overextend. This is called overextending. When you overextend in chess, you overreach. Same in boxing. You overextend the punch, you leave everything open for a counterattack, right? You overextend. How are you going to block yourself in this position? You're not. Someone's going to crack you, right? So this is not great, but at least this kind of prevents a little bit of bishop movement. This is overextended because the pawns are separated. now the bishop can just re-enter, and this pawn can be touched by a pawn. Like, it just, boop! And suddenly we're trading the pawns. And for the record, even if you castled this way, this is also pretty overextended because I immediately target it. Whereas, had you played, let's just say, here, 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 and then you castled, this is much more fortified. It's all together like this, like a rock. It's a lot harder for me to get there. I start some sort of attack against you, you just nullify me, I can't even move my second pawn forward. Once you get good enough at chess, you know that stuff like this is just bad. It's just bad. Even if you get the pawns connected, which actually would have been slightly better. Why? Because you're wasting time. This position is very bad for black. You didn't develop your pieces. You never castled. You also sabotaged any chance to castle. Look at this position. I have queen, knight, bishop, rook, and the second rook coming, and I have more space in the center. I have more control. So my opponent in this game played a Scandinavian defense. I've played once where I take the center, I take away the space, and I've played once now where I capture. And as long as you just play normal moves, by the way, the best move here, of course, is pawn to d5. But as long as you play normal moves, you are going to win the game. And last but not least, I here can take the knight. Normally, losing a queen is bad, but there are very rare positions where the enemy king is stuck in the center with no coverage, and this is losing. The only way to block is with the queen or with the pawn. You have no way to take my bishop, you have no knight, and after this, I take with the pawn, and you cannot stop. Right for this moment, you cannot stop what's coming. What's coming is I'm going to go pawn c7 or pawn takes b7, discover check, and I will either win a queen or even more, and it's over. And then you go here, and then I take the bishop, and I have an extra bishop. It is a very rare case of when you are under a pin, but because your vicious counterattack is so strong, you can sacrifice your queen. Now you learn that tactical pattern. But again, if this is the position, you absolutely cannot go here. Because, right? But as long as this, as long as this check is possible, it should be fine. Like, even this position, you can take because nobody can block the check. So, there you go. Now you learn that. All right, we got to keep going. I mean, we need somebody to not hang anything. Like, that was a free queen after 10 moves. And the first player also lost their queen in 9 moves. Crazy. All right, let's show you all how to actually play the Scandinavian defense. All right, we're going to bring our queen out. Now, you can bring it back. Bringing it back is fine. Me personally, I like to put it here. I like it to be a little bit more active. So again, some of these moves are going to be made. Knight f3. Last game, we saw the person pin us. We can do that. I don't mind. It's not what I like. I like to put the bishop on the f5 square. But okay, d4. We develop our king's knight. Developing my king's knight. Notice I did not get hit with the pawn. Next, I'm going to develop my dark square bishop. Okay. Now, white could set up an attack against our queen. What I like to do is the second I see they're going to target the queen, like a3, b4, something like that, I make a little getaway, I get my queen out. It's very simple. Like, the Scandinavian, as a beginner, is actually super easy. You just follow, like, a couple of little things, and, you just make sure you don't get your queen trapped. Okay, bishop e2, I'm just going to develop, like, okay, here... Very often, I like to trade this bishop. We can do it. Why do I like to do it? I'm going to show you. I build on the light squares. So I trade my light squared bishop, and then I put everything on a light square. By the way, pawn to b4 is not a threat, because I can take and this pin, but I'm 700. Let's just stick to our protocol. And the way I've actually taught my wife to play this opening, and she plays this opening all the time like this, is you castle on opposite sides, and then you start an attack. And it's risky. It's risky business. But here I have nothing. Meaning, my opponent has actually played extremely well. This is so far the lowest rated, but best playing beginner that I have faced. This person is playing very well. So far, nothing crazy. With white, you bring a rook out, you bring a bishop. These are the only 2 moves I will accept. Everything else is not as good. But, like, you haven't developed your pieces yet. So you have to develop your pieces. There is nothing to think about. You just got to get the pieces out. You can bring the queen out, too. I wouldn't mind a queen move. Stuff like knight to e4, trading pieces, it's okay. But let's get a piece out that hasn't moved yet. My opponent has disconnected. Oh, man. Is this actually how the slow run is going to go today? Are you serious? The best playing but lowest rated beginner just did this? Oh, this is so brutal. Really? Yo, I can't believe it. What is happening today? Like, this person played great. They even have a slightly better position after 10 moves. I mean, all right, well, is the slow run rigged? Like, is that what's going on? I mean, we're going to get more games. I'm going to get a really high rating at the end of this. I mean, that's cool, I guess. We're going to get the 750 faster than I thought. Folks, hey, you got to give credit to White. White played great. I mean, White played exactly how you're supposed to play chess. Now, here, you know, the best move for White is probably Rook E1, Bishop G5, something like this. Like, let's say White went Rook E1, and now Black has a decision. Like Knight D7, White, you know, Bishop G5. So does Black castle short side or long side? That's really the question. Short side is better. It's safer. Meaning, you're not going to attack each other here. Watch what's going to happen to the evaluation. It spikes. Because immediately, the computer is like, ooh, opposite side castling. What are the best moves here for White? B4 and push the A pawn. If White doesn't do that, if White just, let's say, passes the move back, you know what the best move for Black is? Very simple, H5. Because what'll happen is, here's a perfect situation. You know, White is going to attack, Black is going to attack, right? Something like this. But if Black gets going first, there is no purer example of castling on opposite sides and creating opposite side castling attacks. It's just about who's faster. Now Black is better. White waited too long. G4, now it's -2. Pawn takes, bishop E2. Now it's -5. Look at this. It's -5. So in just about 5 or 6 moves, you can be completely lost. But if White plays the position correctly, like let's say bishop E3, knight D7, rook E1 long. Let's say White plays B4. White starts the attack immediately. Black also starts an attack. White goes B5. Like, you see this. White is striking first. Now, if Black is not careful, Black will just be immediately completely lost. Immediately. So, if you like these types of games that are a little bit more fighting, you go for opposite side castling. You want a little bit more stability in your life, you castle short side. And then in the future, you know, you bring your rooks to the middle and you're a little cramped. So maybe you go for a pawn break, and that pawn break leads to getting your pieces a little bit more out. And that's how chess is played. That is how chess is played at a stronger intermediate level. Okay, let's go. Scandinavian, one more time. I'm going to show you how to play it. Queen takes. The odds that you get this move are like 90%, right? So last game we saw knight F3 and D4. Last game, I also traded my light-scored bishop for the knight. This time, I'm not going to do that. This time, I'm going to put my bishop over here. Because they're both possible. Okay, this is already a bad move. Because you just block your bishop. So I'm going to develop my knight. I think White is going for this. That's what White is trying to do. A lot of people play like this. Sometimes they go here and they hang the bishop in one move. Okay, so now we ask ourselves this question of, is the knight moving actually that scary? The answer is no. It's actually not. So I'm just going to develop. The opponent is now going to justify this and be like, ha ha. And I'm going to move my queen because now they might trade the knights. So, all right. I'm going to take with the pawn and get my bishop out and castle, right? Like, now they will either develop a knight like normal or they will continue to try to attack my queen. So both of those things are very possible. That's just... Because people just, okay, yeah, check. There you go. So they're checking me. I actually don't mind this move. So, of course, I can move my king, but that's idiotic because then my king is going to be in the center of the board. I can block with this bishop. I can also block with the queen. So let me play this move because this move is funny. This move looks like, that's a good move, pawn to b3. You know why pawn to b3 was played? Because I was going to take the pawn. So b3 was played. This move looks like it stops the issues, but you actually can't castle. If you castle here, you would lose the bishop for free. So I need to develop one more piece before I castle my king. Now, some of you watching might go, hey, isn't that just an attack on the rook? Yes, but you are violating everything you are learning in the slow run. You are not going to win the rook. It's not a horrible move, by the way. See, I predicted it. It's not a horrible move, but like, come up with something a little better. So the queen's hanging. I can jump in with a knight and counterattack. I can move the queen with check. I can move the queen here. I can move the queen here or here. Bishop c5 is a losing mistake because we would be opening up our king, and in one move we would lose everything. So I have to just choose one. Let's go back to where we were, and white is going to go back, of course. And from there, I would then suggest like a move where the bishop can kind of, you know, like maybe something. You could even go back to where you were in the typical Scandinavian. I'm gonna go here because I'm attacking this pawn. I like this move because there's no easy move for the bishop, I think. If my opponent goes here, I will then fork the king and the rook. Ooh, okay. I'm so happy to see this because now you're never going to castle. Already I'm winning, by the way, in one move. Knight to d4 is a fork of the queen and the pawn. It's just a tactic. But it's a little bit of a rare tactic, so let's just castle and let's try to stick to some good principles. By the way, this is still winning on the spot. I don't know what a3 is doing. I think my opponent's trying to chase my queen again. I'm going to create an attack on this queen, and they're going to go pawn to b4, of course. So you see, like, how little people care about the opponent. They just want their own plans. It's like, without a doubt, white is going to play the move b4 here. I would be shocked if they did anything different. And so now I'm going to kind of return the favor. I'm going to play here and see if they... But I think they're going to go pawn c3 because it also is an attacking move. And now I will go queen back, and let's see if they go c4 attacking my queen again, and I will go back to the d4 square, and their pawn cannot go backwards. I'm trying maybe also to get in here. Yeah, this is pretty wild. Of course, I've had better moves, but I'm just trying to show you how crazy it is, that how predictable people are as beginners. I also could not take the pawn on d3. It had too much protection. But look, it's been 15 moves. White has a queen, an uncastled king, 4 random pawns. f3 also blocks this. So now we will zip in here. We have infiltrated the ranks. We are attacking white, and white is actually, it's hopeless here. It's hopeless because with the queen standing directly in the line of sight of the rook, I can play basically any move now. And you will just lose your queen. And this is pretty wild. These are all 700s who we are facing. And if you're sitting at home going, these are not the same 700s I'm playing, yes, they are. Yes, they are. The bishop used to guard the pawn. Now we win a rook. I mean, white has spent the whole game moving only pawns and kings. By the way, we can win everything here now. Rook takes bishop is free. And my opponent just resigns. So, look. I mean, in that game, I spent literally about 13, 14 moves just reacting to the opponent's threats and not panicking. And then they just got themselves into a losing position. So right away, there was pawn to d3, which was not a particularly, great move, but fine. I just developed 2 pieces. They made a discovered attack against my queen. I just slid it right back here, kept everything defended, and targeted the pawn on b2. Now, as you've learned from the slow run already, or maybe haven't, b2 and g2 pawns, poison pawns. Why are they poisoned? Because the opponent will activate and counterattack immediately. But I still have vision here. Here I could have taken with any of the pawns, but I decided to take with a pawn. This happened in the previous game. Previous game I had the option to take. Remember? So this was the, hold on, this was the previous game. And in this game, I had the option with the white pieces. No, this was the abandoned game. In this game, I had the option to take this knight, and I didn't do it because the e-pawn would take and open the bishop. And what happened in our game, just now is that that's exactly what happened. My opponent took my knight, and I went like this, and I opened my bishop. Now, some of you would trade the queen. I personally like to keep my queen on the board. Didn't blunder my bishop. That is very important. I developed another piece, but all I'm doing is I'm hitting the checklist of developing pieces. Any move was reasonable, provided you didn't blunder something. I could have went to a3 or here. I didn't play knight b4, so look, even a move like knight b4 is not awful, because I'm threatening this. But I don't like to pin myself. There's no need to pin yourself. So I went here. My opponent went king d1. And both castling options are good. I went here. Now I'm going to put my rooks in the center and move my bishop. And now knight d4 is just a pure fork. Just wins on the spot. The only move here that doesn't lose immediately for white is giving the queen up and pinning me. And if you move the queen, it's mate. I mean, it's literally mate in a few moves. Queen here. Knight b3. This is all under attack. Rook e8. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Like, what did I do? I just, by the way, how crazy is it? I predicted, like, a3. I predicted b4, c3. Right? I mean, it's all part of the game, right? All right, one last game. We're only at 30 minutes in, which is kind of crazy. This is our third game in a row with black. All right, I'm going to go back to the normal. I'm not going to play a Scandinavian anymore. We're going to play typical normal stuff. Okay, all good. Now, I have played a few games in the Italian already where I've played bishop c5 or knight f6, and we've talked a lot about the Traxler. Maybe we're going to get fried-livered. Turkish players are tactical. Okay, my opponent actually just plays very normal. Just completely normal stuff. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to play this move pawn to h6. So I've been hoping to play an Italian where I get one of these types of positions. So h6 is a useful move because it prevents anything from going to g5. And now I like to play, this is actually useful for people who are even 1500, so pay attention. When I see that my opponent castled, I will then develop my bishop, and I will use my g-pawn as an attacking ram. So I'm actually going to castle long in an Italian, which is rare. It's pretty rare to play like that. I'm going to play g5 and castle the opposite way. So the bishop could go here. This is one possibility to try to prepare my castling. Another possibility is to immediately start with g5. Why do I have so many options? Like, why can I play a6, a5, bishop d7, bishop going to... It's an Italian and the position is closed. Both sides are setting up their fence. Like two people, big houses, put the fences next to each other, and they're doing their own thing. So you could really do anything you want here. You can start an attack immediately. You can play, you can play for long castle. Again, I'm 700. I'm trying to stick to the principles. So the principles will say, let's develop some pieces, let's castle, and then and only then start the attack. My opponent takes. You will notice I have doubled my pawns. And look, they are mirroring, which is very normal, actually. It's not a good idea to take this because you're just helping the opponent. I actually prefer going back a square, rock back, because if they take you, you just open up your rook. Okay, so they've traded all the bishops. c3. I guess the idea is to advance with pawn to d4. Now, our plan has always been to create an attack, right? We want to attack our opponent. We can still stick to the plan. It's probably okay. But since I already did this, putting my king there is a little bit loose. We have to kind of adapt to what's in front of us. Whatever. Look, simple move. I mean, there is nothing ever wrong with castling. Queen b3 attacks this pawn. I can defend it with my queen. Where do I put it? Should I spend like 100 seconds here? I don't know. Let's go queen d7. I mean, there's right. Let's just make a move. Let's make a move. Gotta make a move. Our center is solid. When our opponent traded the bishop for us on e6 and we took with the pawn, something happened where we opened the f-file. This is something we have not yet seen in the slow run, I'm pretty sure, because we're getting a little bit more advanced as the ratings get higher. With the open f-file, when you have traded your f-pawn to g or e, when you castle on the same side, the open f-file really benefits the attacking player because the rook is going to be open, right? So, look, knight comes in. Knight is trying to go over here. Here's the difference. What if I do the exact same thing? Look, I have a rook. They have nothing. This is a massive advantage for me in this position. Because just coming in with a knight and attacking a rook, that's an excellent move, I just want to say. Queen of d1 is an amazing move. Coming in with the knight and just attacking the rook is not particularly effective. Coming in with the knight and parking it somewhere, you will have permanent pressure on everything. Very different story. Now, you can move the thing that's hanging, or you can protect it, and by protecting it, I coordinate with my rook on this file. Open F file on same side castling. Very useful. Very, very useful. Rook goes to F1. Now, simple idea to bring the knight closer to the position. I mean, this is a move you don't really even have to think about too much. I would love to attack the knight, but my queen is guarding my knight. So now my knight is close. Look, it's looking at both pawns. A lot of people here would blunder just immediately. My knight sees 3 different pawns. This is already very bad news for white. Just this little infiltration. Just this little maneuver here is already not very good for white because white can't even bring in the knight because they're going to lose this pawn. Maybe next I will attack this knight. Maybe I'm going to go pawn to g5. Same side attacks in chess have to be controlled and... Okay, is there an idea to this move? I don't know. Maybe it's pawn to g3 to try to kick me out. What if I attacked this knight? What if I attacked it with a pawn? Now the knight has to move. It's going to go back, probably. Hey, wouldn't it be great if I could get my knight over there, and if I could get my queen over there as well? Wouldn't that be really nice? Well, I think I can if I do this correctly. So I'm going to move my queen out of the way, maybe. And my idea is to double my rooks. So I'm going to double my rooks and get another rook to the game. You'll notice I'm playing so slowly. Every move is just slightly improving my position. I'm not rushing. In closed positions, 8 pawns per player, you got to be slow. And as you get stronger, you got to know where you're playing. This move is a tactical mistake, but it's a little hard to spot. And I'm not going to play why it's a tactical mistake, because I don't think that's very fair to my opponent. But I can now take this pawn. I can take the pawn because when the king takes, I have a fork of the king and the knight. But okay, my knight is hanging, so I'm just going to move it backwards. And my opponent has slightly destabilized their position. So this knight is now not protected. Now the best move here is knight d2. I'll be very impressed if my opponent... Yeah, see, this is a mistake because now I just go back to exactly where I was. And I have a permanent outpost. An outpost is a square in the opponent's position where you plant a piece, almost always a knight. From there, it cannot be removed easily. And now one side just has a very strong advantage. And that's me. And now I'm going to build up my rooks. I'm really showing you the open F file. Okay. Some of you would be tempted to defend against the... No, we don't need to. Rook F, I don't really care. White is going to go B5, of course. It's a very natural dopamine-style move. Yeah, the thing about this attack is way more vicious. There are kings there. Here, there's nothing. Nothing. You're attacking an empty field. You're attacking an empty field. I mean, there's nothing there. Okay. When I'm seeing all of this, there is almost always a tactic. If we could take that knight with our rooks, because it's not protected by anything valuable except a queen, like, it's protected by the most valuable thing possible, then we're going to be good. We're going to be really breaking into the position, but everything looks good here for us. Like, we can play pawn to h5, we can play knight takes pawn. If knight takes pawn, we're going to get this back, so we think a little bit. When you consider a move like knight takes pawn, here's how your thought process should go. Knight takes, they take, I take the knight, I'm going to end up winning their queen. It's good for me, I should play the move. No. I should think knight takes pawn. Do they have a check? No. Can they capture anything useful? Boop. Boop. Doesn't look like it. It's going to be hard. Got to visualize this. You keep looking and you go, hey, I don't think they have anything here. So I'm going to take the pawn. I'm going to take the pawn. Because my rooks see the knight. This can't be bad. And then you go boom. Now, what'll happen is here, you're going to give up both rooks for the queen. So this is your position. This is not the simplest position to win. It wasn't the best. We could have done a little bit better. So now you're like, okay, maybe I should have, okay, well, I got to use my queen and knight effectively. So how am I going to do that? Let's go queen check. Okay, but now we have this check. And on the next move, we're going to be grabbing ourselves a pawn. Now, the best move is to probably block. And now we have some more checks. Check. Rook is going to block because people like to attack stuff. And whenever... What? What? Why did you give me the knight? Okay, well, that was just a brain fart. They just forgot I could take it. Now my queen's going to eat everything. They did not need to do that. Now, I was still much better. I mean, I had a very strong position. Okay, free pawn. Oops, free pawn. Rook under attack. Another free pawn. So now my queen just took like 1, 2. I mean, it took everything. Rook c2. That's defended. Another free pawn. Our queen took everything. Everything. Oh, but now you got to be careful. There's going to be an infiltration. Okay, let's just bring the queen back. There's going to be a check. Yep. And now my opponent is going to start, you know, yeah. So my opponent is very, very creative, I have to say. Not a bad player at all. So now we're like, all right, what do we do with our knight? Like, we can't guard this pawn. Let's push. Let's just push a pawn. They're going to take with check. And then they're probably going to take this pawn as well. Or they're going to go here because they know they have to attack my king. Now, it would be great if they could get the second rook there, but that's going to be impossible. Okay. Now, we know you get 3 minutes. How are you going to... Okay, a lot of you would just get obsessed with moves like this. No. You have a queen and knight and pawns. Go advance the pawns. You have to. You have to try to make a queen. Okay. Can I push? Looks like it. Yes. I push. They're gonna... Okay. What's the... I can defend with the king. I can also move my knight right here. I can also move my queen. Let's put the knight in the center. So this is defended and this is defended. My knight is looking at the pawn. My pawn is going to maybe promote. Rook d2 walks directly into a fork, which is tough to spot with low time. But another possibility here is the rook is blockading, so we'd like to get our queen here to get it out of the way, but this is by far the easiest solution. The rooks just cannot defend each other. And that is tough. And with one rook, it's going to be a lot harder to get any sort of counterplay. The position actually was holdable. It was not completely without hope. But such is life. Such is life. And my opponent resigned. That was the best player I played so far. So I just want to make it very clear. That person played very, very well. And this also shows you that if you play good principal chess, which my opponent did, my opponent played extremely principal chess, you get very good games. You get very, very good games where after that, it requires you to have knowledge of the structure. It requires you to have knowledge of the type of, game you're getting with your opening. It requires you to have a little knowledge like, hey, I know when I have the open F file, I can actually attack people. Hey, when, my king is open on this side, maybe I shouldn't castle in that direction, although even, that would have been probably fine. In the opening, I decided to play bishop e6, but even here, I could have already gone pawn to g5. I could have actually already started an attack, but 700s don't play like that. But this is a very advanced Italian. So if you're ever looking for a nice weapon to add to your toolbox, this Italian with g5, super vicious. Super, super vicious. Very tricky as well for white. My opponent already misplayed it, according to Stockfish. But yeah, not an easy opening to handle as you move up the rating ladder. In the game itself, I just tried to quickly castle. The best move is queen e8, by the way, because you never know when you're going to need to rotate there. But again, knight h4. I copied, but it wasn't the most effective move. The best move was to go queen f7, stop this, prepare an attack over here. But, like, already here, we kind of see the position is minus 1.5. Why is it minus 1.5? The way the position is set up with me having the open F file, I have the momentum here, and white doesn't have the momentum anywhere else. I have the better prospects. That is why my position is better. I'm not up any material, but I have much better long-term attacking chances, and white never got their development. In fact, white literally never developed that side of the board. And here knight d3 was not the best move. The best move was definitely something like knight takes h3 or something, because white would not be able to take my rook. But this is still okay. And I gave a check, and my opponent here should have gone out of the way of the checks. Instead, they allowed a check. And what I would have done here is I would have went queen c1. And whenever you have pieces on the opponent's rank that haven't developed, blocking a rook, this is a worst nightmare. Because you can't move either of the pieces. And if you play rook f1, I go check. That's the difference. Now, if I played passive, if I went here, my opponent would have gone knight d2, and even though this position is minus 4.5, it's not clear at all it's minus 4.5. It's still very much a game here. Queen d3, rook f2, I take, b5, like knight here. I mean, it's still a game. You can still totally lose this. So you have to be on your game. Like, look, I guess there's a hanging rook. There's been a hanging rook for a couple moves. But let's just say rook c1, and you go like c6, rook d2, queen here. No, I'm really trying to make something happen, but I can't. You could move your queen here and hang a fork. It's never too late. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Episode 11 is done. We have crossed 750. Even today, the games were blundery. People at this level are still making some mistakes, and I mean, I hope you're learning. Like, I hope even that game, like, now you know how to play an Italian more advanced. This is for people who are much higher rated, and you know how to play a Scandinavian opposite side castling. Like, I'm just giving you little nuggets in the opening and then helping you make better decisions in the middle game, acknowledging your opponent's plans, what their ideas are, and how to come up with the best plans for yourself. So you could mark it down, by the way. October 2026, How to Win at Chess Next Level, a book for intermediate players, is coming out. Super excited about that. Teaches you about pawn play, piece play, attacking, defending, tactical play, positional play, end games, converting winning positions. Can't wait for How to Win at Chess Next Level. That's all I have for you today. And if you would like to donate, once again, here it is. I think since I started, this already went up a lot. So, and everything, all the proceeds of this video will be going as well. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.